You're watching Appalachian Axeworks on YouTube. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today, and we're going to talk about a couple of Woodman's pals. These are really neat items. I'm sure anybody watching this video has probably at least seen these, or maybe even owned a few of them over the years. These are really neat though. We see these a lot when we're out picking, and most of the time they go for pretty good money, so we pass them up. But whenever we do find one for a good deal, we pick it up. Both of these were picks. This one here we picked like 9 years ago, and as you can imagine, they've only went up in price since this one. This is a model 681, and it's P6. You can see it. It says Woodman's Pal 681, Victor Tool Company, Reading, PA. But really neat find. Has the sheet metal sheath. Got your belt clip right here, and this still has the original leather strap on it too. Really neat find. When we found this, my son was very enamored with it, and he was like, "Dad, I want that one for my collection." So he snagged this one. So this has been in his collection since we found it. And it's not really had a lot done to it. So let's look at this first. He pretty much just cleaned it up, and that was about it. Didn't do any sharpening to it. Didn't do hardly anything to it. Just kind of leave it like we found it. He's more like that. He likes his personal stuff. He likes to leave kind of as it's found. So, but this is a really neat item, and I snagged this from him so I can make this video because we recently found another one. So, but really neat. Sheath's really neat. Got the belt clip, and these were intended to be worn on the left side. So you would pull, if you're right-handed, you would pull like that over. But pretty neat. And then this one here is the one we found recently. So you can see this one's got the D-ring handle, or the D handle. It does have the sheet metal sheath, and this is the P4. And when we found this one, the leather strap on this one was in really rough condition, and they actually had it. And this is the original leather strap. They actually had it hot glued on. This thing was pretty rough looking when we found it, but it was hot glued on. You can see there. So when we were cleaning it up, I said, well, I'm gonna put a new leather strap on it. So pretty neat. Now this one, unfortunately, whoever owned this took a flap disc to it and took the markings off of it. So it's really hard to identify, get a identifying date on it, maybe where you might be able to date it, but it's still in structurally sound condition. And my son cleaned it up and did sharpen it a little bit, so it could be used. Cleaned up the sheath too. Sheath was a little rough looking, but and you can see I added this new strap, which is much improved over the old strap. See that rough looking thing? But so these things have a pretty neat history to them. There's a lot of history out there. So if you really want to dive into, you can get out there and really find a lot of history about these. But I'll give some quick highlights. The original ones came out in 41, and the military quickly adopted them. So they were used primarily in the Pacific Theater. I think the Army Corps, Signal Corps, took them initially, and then they kind of became more widely issued in the Pacific. So neat item. These, of course, the military issue. Most of the military issue ones had a canvas sheath, and they had the military designation on the sheath. But some of these with the metal stamped metal sheath like this were actually in survival kits and in pilot survival kits. We believe this one here was in a pilot survival kit from Korea. I remember when we got this, we did quite a bit of research on it, and we kind of narrowed it down to where we thought this was in a pilot's kit during the Korean. So yeah, we believe this came out of a pilot's survival kit from the Korean War. So, but also these were sold often in the PX or base exchange, and a lot of times even guys that weren't issued these would go buy them at the PX and then carry them into the theater, the war zone, or wherever they were stationed, even if they weren't issued them. So a lot of times the ones sold in the PX were the ones with the stamp sheath, the civilian models. So I believe this one here is a civilian model, because a lot of times the military ones with the D-ring have some stampings right here on the D-ring. This one does not. So, but yeah, so a lot of times even guys that weren't issued these would end up, like I said, buying them from the PX. And if you're into military history and old knives, there was a lot of knives and different tools that ended up being purchased at the PX that became pretty prevalent in theaters of war during different periods of history. So just something that happens, and it's pretty neat actually. So during from Vietnam through Desert Storm, these were still issued by the military, but they were primarily issued as a pilot survival tool. So there's some really neat, if you go out there and search some of the forums, there's some really neat pictures of these in survival kits for pilots. But they continue to be issued up and through Desert Storm, and that's where they got cut off, as far as I believe. But they still might be issued. I'm not sure. But that's my information, is they got cut off right about there. And these also were commonly advertised in Boys Life magazine for the Scouts. And I think they said something like this, the ad said something like this would be great for Scout Leader and Scouts, or something like that. And it was an advertisement, by the Victor Tool Company. So just some neat history there. So that's pretty cool. These are really neat items. Thought I'd share them with you. This one here is gonna end up going up for sale. This one is staying in my son's collection. And then I got one other item, surprise item. So we found this a while back, maybe a month or 2-3 ago. I can't really remember. And it's a handmade knife. Couldn't really identify what that piece of metal is, where they got that blade from, but as you can see, it's handmade. But my son cleaned it up, sharpened it, did some work on the handle so it's more viable. But it's sturdy. It's a nice handmade bushcraft knife. And once he got done with it, now he's handing it off to me, and I got to make a leather sheath for it. So that'll be something I'll be working on in the next month or two, getting a leather sheath made for this. But it's really neat. Anytime we find these handmade knives out, if they're not in horrible shape, where they've either rusted away or they start falling apart, we'll pick them up. And we got a bunch of them running around here, but this one here was definitely worth doing some work on. And as you can see, it's nice looking. So nice bushcraft knife. So there you go. So you got two Woodman's Pal and a handmade bushcraft knife. There you go. Well, appreciate everybody stopping by. There's definitely a lot going on. You know, if you're really interested in these, there's a ton of history out there. You can go on all the different forums and different things and learn about these. They still make this item today. They're made in the USA. They're not. They're fairly pricey, but you know, if you want to get a nice American-made item, it's going to last you for a very long time. I think the standard one is about 150, and I think the one with the D ring is like 180 or 200 bucks, something like that. So, but pretty neat items, and you know, just thought I'd share them with you. I appreciate everybody stopping by the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.